fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Several weeks ago, Billy Payne, the president of the Augusta National Country Club, stood in front of a television audience, and made the announcement, "This is a great day for America." The Augusta National Country Club had just admitted its first 2 women members. I thought about that, and my mind quickly went back to the previous president and his comments about 6 years ago. The National Organization of Women were protesting. They wanted the right to join the Augusta National Country Club. They also made an attempt to put pressure on television advertisers to withhold their advertising dollars as a means to pressure the club to accept women as members. Hootie Johnson, who was president of the club, made these announcements. First thing he did, he drew a line in the sand. He said, 1, if you want to protest, you'll do it over there, not here. Meaning that there would be no disruption of the games. 2, he said, for those of you that advertise, spend your advertising dollars, keep your money. We don't need it. And the third thing he said was, when we decide to allow members to join this club, it will be a decision that we make. We will not succumb to outside pressure.
That's right.
Bold statements, which brings to mind the title of my speech, Free to Choose, with whom we associate. Today I have 3 examples I'd like to share with you. 2 have a direct bearing on country clubs. The third one has nothing to do with country clubs on the one hand, but on the other hand, it has everything to do with country clubs and our right to choose with whom we associate. The first example goes back to the early 80s, Richmond, Virginia. Richmond is considered to be a very conservative town. The Richmond News Leader is considered to be a very conservative newspaper. There was a doctor, Dr. Thomas Wright, and his wife. They bought a home in the exclusive Salisbury subdivision. Shortly thereafter, the Wrights applied for membership in the Salisbury Country Club. They were turned down flatly, and the club membership made no bones about why they were turned down. Their application was denied for one reason and one reason only, because the Wrights were black. The club's feeling was that this is a private club. We have the right, free to choose. The Wrights filed suit. The courts decided with the country club that it was a private club. The next example I'd like to share is a personal example. It happened to me here in Atlanta. About 12 years ago, I was a member of a company. I was employed by a company, a commercial real estate company in downtown. The president had announced that he was retiring. The chairman of the board was interviewing candidates for president. I threw my name in the ring, and I was selected president. Shortly thereafter, it was announced that there would be a party for the outgoing president, and the venue would be the Piedmont Driving Club. For those of you who do not know, the Piedmont Driving Club is one of the muckety-mucks of the muckety-muck private clubs in Atlanta. Well, the only problem with that for me was I knew that the Piedmont Driving Club did not accept black members. So when our administrative assistant came to my office to tell me that that's where the party was going to be, I gave her some reason. I couldn't make it. It was a conflict. I was going to be out of town or some reason. You see, I had no problem with people belonging to a private club, even though I could not attend. That never bothered me. But I want to make one point clear. That's something that I would not do. I would not go. I think it's their right, but it's also my right. So having said that, she saw through my ruse, unbeknownst to me, and she told the chairman of the company, the chairman of the board. A quick backdrop about the chairman of the board. He's an old member of an old Atlanta blue blood family. He was a member of the Piedmont Driving Club. His father was a member of the Piedmont Driving Club. His grandfather was a founding member of the Piedmont Driving Club. So that organization ran through his veins and was very important to him. He came to my office and closed the door, and I wasn't sure what to expect. But like Hootie Johnson, I had drawn my line in the sand. The first thing he said to me was that he apologized for being insensitive, for holding the party at the Piedmont Driving Club, knowing that they did not accept blacks. The next thing he said, though, was a profound statement that I will never forget. He said, you know, my own daughter cannot join this club. And I'm the incoming chairman, and when I take over, I'm going to do something about this, about blacks and women. And under his leadership, the Piedmont Driving Club accepted his first black member and his first female member. The third example I'd like to give is also somewhat personal in nature, but it has not a lot to do with golf and country club, but it has everything to do with our right to choose. I was a senior at Virginia State College. Virginia State, now Virginia State University. Virginia State had a predominantly black student body, and I'll get to the significance of that in just a second. During those days, college students were demonstrating on college campuses across the country. We were demanding our rights. Power to the people. Power to the people. And Virginia State was no different. We had come up with our list of demands. It was a student body of roughly 3,000 students. 90% of the students had signed our petition demanding our rights. And what those rights were, I can't remember. I can remember one, we wanted to shack up in the girls' dorms, and we wanted them to be able to do the same thing in our dorm. But on a serious note, we had our list of demands. I was one of the students selected to go in to meet with the president. We walked in. Dr. Daniel was ready for us. He sat there and he listened to us talk about our demands. And we presented our 2,700 names on that petition. So this is what Dr. Daniel said to us. He said, I will grant you your rights, but first let me ask you a question. He said, I will even grant you your rights without having read them. But let me ask you this question. He said, how many blacks are in this country, percentage-wise? We said, roughly 20%. He said, so then you are telling me, if 80% of the people in this country signed a petition demanding that 20% of the population, which includes you and all of your friends out there, the 3,000 students, be put back into slavery, then that would be right. And he repeated that for effect. If 80% of the people sign a petition demanding that you be put back into slavery, then you're telling me that we would be right because the majority rules. Well, I knew where Dr. Daniel was coming from. And that was a lesson well learned, that the numbers on a petition have nothing to do as to whether the underlying cause is right or wrong. So having said that, in the case of the Augusta National, do you feel that women had a right to join that club if the membership did not want them? I say no. In the case of the Piedmont Driving Club, do you think blacks and women had a right to join that club if the membership did not want them? I say no. How about the case of Dr. and Mrs. Wright at the Salisbury Country Club? Do you think they had a right? I say yes. So what's the difference? Well, the one thing I did not share about Dr. Wright and his wife was that they appealed the court's decision. The Court of Appeals ruled in their favor. Not that they had a right to join a private club, but the court ruled that the club itself was not private. It gave several reasons. One of the reasons was that when the developer of the country club also developed the housing community, they mentioned the country club as an amenity, and they promoted it as an amenity. And therefore, the club lost its exclusivity in terms of being a private club. So my comments to you today are simply these. When we are demanding our rights, always remember that the other person also has rights.